In this tutorial, we will be demonstrating how to utilize the CPU performance dashboard within your virtual desktop environment using the VDI ToolKit. This dashboard allows you to see an overall picture of CPU performance metrics across your virtual desktop environment. So what information does the CPU performance dashboard provide? Well, it provides daily average CPU metrics, average CPU breakdown by hour metrics, day, week, month, and quarter average CPU metrics, highest 5 average CPU metrics, and the lowest 5 CPU metrics. Let's go over some definitions first. So first definition I want to go over is process utility, which is the amount of work a processor is completing as a percentage of the amount of work the processor could complete if it were running at its nominal performance and never idle. Next, we'll talk about user time. So the user time is a percentage of elapsed time the processor spends in user mode. User mode is restricted processing mode designed for applications, environment subsystems, and integral subsystems. So what does that mean? It means basically the amount of the CPU that's being used for user applications that are running. Then we have privilege time, which is the percentage of elapsed time that the process threads spent executing code in privilege mode. When a Windows system service is called, the service will often run in privilege mode to gain access to subsystem private data. Such data is protected from access by threads executing in user mode. Lastly, we'll talk about interrupt time, which is the time the processor spends receiving and servicing hardware interrupts during sample intervals. This value is an indirect indicator of the activity of devices that generate interrupts, such as system clock, the mouse, disk drivers, data communication lines, network interface cards, and other peripheral devices. These devices normally interrupt the processor when they have completed a task or require attention. Normal thread execution is suspended during interrupts. This counter displays the average busy time as a percentage of the sample time. All right, so let's talk about the daily average CPU metrics and the information it provides. It provides information on daily average processor utility, daily average user time, daily average privilege time, and daily average interrupt time. Next, we have the CPU breakdown by hour metrics, which provide information on hourly average processor utility, hourly average user time, hourly average privilege time, and hourly average interrupt time. Next, we have day, week, month, and quarter CPU metrics, which provide information on the average processor utility, average privilege time, average user time, and average interrupt time over the specified time frame. We also have the highest 5 average CPU metrics, which provide information on average processor utility by user, average processor utility by virtual desktop, average user time by user, and average interrupt time by user. This information can be helpful in finding users and virtual desktops that are the highest consumers within your virtual desktop environment. Lastly, we have the lowest 5 average CPU metrics, which provide information on average processor utility by user, average process utility by virtual desktop, and average user time by user, and average interrupt time by user. This can be helpful in identifying your lowest consumers within your virtual desktop environment to use as a cross comparison or a cross reference with who the highest consumers are within your environment, so you can troubleshoot and see why some users are higher consumers than others. So let's talk about why our charts are ugly. Okay, so that's a strong term, and they aren't necessarily ugly, and we take a lot of pride in them. So let me elaborate on what we mean by that. First, we believe that data should be represented as it presents itself and should be unadulterated. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it means we use no smoothing algorithms on our charts, such as rolling moving averages, etc. Many other companies, when providing charts, are so worried about making them pretty, they modify the data with smoothing algorithms. You are in essence not seeing the true representation of the data when such algorithms are used. This can lead to thinking there isn't a problem when there actually is one. We choose to focus on a true representation of data versus a pretty representation of data. We believe this will equip you with better tools to make better decisions within your virtual desktop environment. Up next, we will demonstrate utilizing the CPU performance dashboard using the VDI ToolKit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the CPU performance dashboard. So we'll need to go and navigate to the management console, and I have that running on a virtual desktop here. So I'll go ahead and open that. All right, once that's open, I'll go ahead and expand it, make it full screen. So what we'll want to do first is navigate to Dashboards, Performance, and that'll be the first one that pops up here, CPU. And as you can notice, we have others too, memory, disk, and protocol. So please watch those videos to get information on those items. Okay, so on the CPU dashboard, what I want to go over first is the CPU daily metrics. And you can see here all the information that provides. And also, just so you know too, that's over a period of the last 365 days. So that is an average of all the CPU utilization within all your virtual desktops that are running. So this can be helpful if all of a sudden you see a spike up. Maybe there's a service that somebody forgot to disable in the master image, such as Windows updates or something like that, that is causing higher CPU utilization within your environment. Now, just so you know too, you can actually drill down on these charts by left clicking and holding and highlighting the area you want to drill down. Once you let go, it will zoom in, and you can zoom in as far as you would like to drill down on those details. By double clicking on the chart, it will bring it back to the 365-day view. Just to go over too as well, if you come here to the ellipsis, you can show grid lines. And you can also show the legend. With the legend, you can actually take and unselect items and hide those from the graph. I'll go ahead and add those back and go ahead and disable the legend. Okay, next what I'd like to talk about is the CPU breakdown by hour. So the CPU breakdown by hour provides information on average processor utility, average user time, average privilege time, and average interrupt time. This can be helpful too because with interrupts, it could be due to disk I/O issues or something like that. And as we can see in this hourly breakdown, we're definitely seeing a spike between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And so those spikes can help you identify issues you may have. Maybe we're seeing higher utilization due to all the logins that are occurring around that time, or maybe there's other tasks going on that are slowing other things down, such as backups or things like that. Next, what I want to go over is the day, week, month, and quarter metrics up at the top. So what we provide here, and that's these 4 items here, is average processor utility, average privilege time, average user time, and average interrupt time. And it's based off of this period. So this would be the last 24 hours, and we could switch it to a week, and this would be the last week. Now, just so you know, when you switch these metrics here, it also updates the highest and the lowest as well here. So the if I switch to day, you'll see that that is different than if I switch to month, and to go over that. And just to go ahead and show here, the reason these numbers are getting lower is because, once again, this is the averages over that interval. And so that's all the users here. So with the highest 5, we have the average processor utility, and that's by user. So you can see your highest users over the time period. We also have average processor utility based off of virtual desktop. So you can see the highest consumers of your virtual desktops. This could be persistent desktops that maybe you're having problems with, or it could also help you indicate which pools are more utilized or have workers that use more information if you have multiple pools within your environment. We also have average user time, which the average user time, it's the highest. So this is your biggest consumers over that same time period up there. And lastly, the average interrupt time, which is once again your highest consumers based off of user over that time period. Now, if we come up to the highest 5 and we click here, it'll switch to the lowest 5. So now we can see who's using the least amount of resources in our environment. And that's the same metrics as the highest 5, just as the lowest. And this can be helpful in identifying, okay, why do I have these users that use so little, and why do I have these users that use so much, or with your virtual desktop, whatever. Another thing that I want to go over too is that these dashboards you can actually print, and that's real easy by just coming up here and navigating to print. You can select print, and it'll give you the option to go ahead and print the dashboard. So if you want to save it or do something with it later or whatnot. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and thank you.